Good evening, President Snow, Vice President Holman, members of the Board of Education, and those watching at home. For the last 8 weeks, the Omaha Public Schools team has been preparing for a possible return to school, and we call it our responsible and safe return to school. As a matter of fact, we have the hashtag open safely, open responsibly. In order to open responsibly, we needed to engage many stakeholders. And so in doing so, we reviewed state, federal, and local guidance. We engaged our health experts, local and state leaders. We continue to engage our health experts. And indeed, we have a member of the Douglas County Health Department team, Justin Frederick, who is our liaison, and we speak with very often regarding health conditions in our community. In addition, we have had conversations with nearby districts and with fellow large urban school districts across the country. As the largest and only urban school district in the state of Nebraska, we have needed to consult with teams from around the Midwest and some in the South to review plans for preparing for large districts returning to in-school and in-person learning. In addition, we conducted student surveys, staff surveys, family surveys, and we had several focus groups. We also conducted a Board of Education workshop last Thursday, and I was able to speak with board members in small groups on Friday and some today on Monday. In order to open safely and open responsibly is very important for us to implement measures to limit the spread of COVID-19 within the school setting. In order to do so, we needed to select a model for instruction using social distancing guidelines, limiting impact on families, consistency to monitor health and well-being, and communication. We all agreed from the beginning that we wanted to and plan to return to in-person learning. Our goal is to get to 100% in-person learning as conditions permit. As we considered models and we reviewed many different models, we had certain North Stars. One of them was a family model that would take into consideration that we have families that have vertical in terms of students in elementary and middle and high school. We also know that sometimes the oldest member in the family may drive some of the younger siblings to school or to other activities. So what we decided to do was divide the district by last name, A to K and L through Z. This allows for enhanced social distancing in schools, classrooms, buses, etc. In households with more than one student last name, attendance days will be based on the oldest student. This is for a district-wide implementation for all grades, and A to K will attend every Monday and Tuesday, L through Z will attend every Thursday and Friday, and Wednesday rotates between the groups. An updated calendar will be provided, which shows the days that each of the groups would attend. In addition to the Family 3-2 model that has A through K coming Mondays and Tuesdays and L through Z coming Thursdays and Fridays with Wednesday as the swing day, we know that it is very important for our learners who need to be in school the most to be in school every day. And so in this model, early childhood special education, K through 12 ACP students, alternate curriculum program students, K through 12 behavioral skills program students, BSP, K through 12 hearing impaired classrooms, and all classrooms at JP Lord will attend school every day. At this time, I'm going to turn it over to Mrs. Lori Boda. Lori is the Supervisor of Health Services for the Omaha Public Schools.
Thank you, Dr. Logan. Good evening, everyone. Hello, my name is Lori Boda, and I'm the Supervisor of Health Services. In the Omaha Public Schools, the safety, health, and well-being of our staff, students, and visitors is our top priority. We have prepared for a responsible and safe return to school. As recommended by the Centers for Disease Control, non-pharmaceutical interventions are critical actions that people in communities can take to slow the spread of illness, including COVID-19. These measures are essential since there is no vaccine available. They include staying home when ill, social distancing, hand hygiene, and wearing a face covering. Students, staff, and visitors will be required to wear a face covering at all times while on our campuses. There are some exceptions to this, such as children under the age of 2, individuals who cannot remove their face covering without assistance, those with sensory needs or who use lip reading for communication, as well as those individuals whose breathing may be impaired by wearing a face covering. I am working with special education to identify students who may not be able to wear a face covering and who will need accommodations such as face shields to ensure their safety. As you know, each student and staff will receive 5 face coverings. We are working closely with district communications to ensure families and staff receive education on the importance of wearing a face covering, proper wearing and caring of the face covering. It is an expectation that all staff, students, and visitors wear a face covering while on site. Dr. Sturba will now discuss additional safety components.
Thank you, Mrs. Boda. Good evening, President Snow and esteemed board. My name is Lisa Sturba, and I am the Chief Operations Officer for the Omaha Public Schools. As we prepare for a responsible return to school, cleaning standards of the Omaha Public Schools are in accordance with the Center for Disease Control, with all schools going through a deep cleaning and then disinfected. Classrooms will be thoroughly swept, vacuumed, and mopped more frequently throughout the day. We do know that it will take a collective effort to assure that classrooms in high traffic areas are regularly sanitized, and we appreciate the efforts of all. Restrooms and high-touch areas, such as stair rails and door handles, will be cleaned and disinfected regularly throughout the day, with a schedule to assure that high-touch areas will be cleaned a minimum of every 2 hours. Ingredients of all cleaners and disinfectants meet the CDC guidelines for killing the coronavirus and are safe in our classrooms. Other considerations that are being taken into account are increased number of waste cans where needed the most, the replenishment of soap and paper towels in restrooms to keep up with the increased demand. Hand cleaning stations and/or hand sanitizer will be available at all entrances, and we will prepare a 30-day supply of cleaning supplies and PPE in our distribution center. As much as possible, outdoor air will be introduced into the space during occupied time to follow the American Society of Heating, Refrigerating, and Air Conditioning Engineers, or ASHRAE, recommendations in response to COVID. We're working with our school leaders to designate specific entrances and exits into and out of the schools, as well as establishing traffic flow within the school to mitigate social distancing and ensure the safety, such as one-way hallways, stairs specific for up or down. Schools are also creating schedules to decrease and alter transitions to minimize contact and congregating. We will continue with our grab-and-go model for breakfast to allow for social distancing. We are also working with school staff at each school to create lunch schedules that meet the needs of individual schools while allowing choice for students and meeting social distancing standards. We are working with the USDA to provide 3 days worth of meals for students to take home on the days that they are not in school. Again, we want to be responsible and assure that our kids are safe when they're not with us. We're fortunate to have a partnership with UNL Department of Chemical and Biomolecular Engineering, who have provided an alcohol-based hand sanitizer, which will be provided for all of our classrooms, offices, and high traffic areas. Additional measures, as Mrs. Boda mentioned, such as face shields, barrier gowns, gloves, and other protective equipment will be provided for students and staff, especially those with high need. I'm now going to turn it over to Katie Hecht-Weber, who will talk to you about the well-being of our students and our staff.
Thank you, Dr. Sturba, and good evening, everyone. My name is Katie Hecht-Weber. I am the supervisor of school counseling, and I'm thankful for the opportunity to share with you today some of the different elements that school counseling, social work, and our multi-tiered system of support team are preparing to support students' social and emotional well-being as they transition back to school safely and responsibly. As we think about how we return to school, we know that there's been a disruption to students' routines and their community at school. School is so much more than a place where students come to learn academics. School provides classroom communities, groups of friends, and additional adults who genuinely care. This has been disrupted by closure, and it will take some time to rebuild, which is why we're committed to refostering that sense of belonging, community, and safety as students arrive. We know a positive environment that supports a sense of belonging is key to student success. And that's why the multi-tiered system of support team will be providing various on-demand professional development trainings and ongoing support to teachers and staff to ensure that our school climate lends itself to the healthy development of each student. Professional development will continue to build on effective classroom practices designed to enhance safe, caring, and predictable classroom environments, as well as providing strategies to help create inclusive conditions in our school classrooms with culturally responsive practices, because we know the importance of students feeling like they're a valued member of our school community in order to achieve school success. Our goal is to focus on ethic of care, particularly on how we reestablish trusting relationships. The multi-tiered system of support team will be supporting teachers and staff by providing ongoing strategies that embed social and emotional learning throughout the student's day. We will continue to take a tiered approach to meeting students' needs with universal supports for all students, such as carving out time for daily check-ins to screen all students early and often, so that we may follow up with targeted and even intensive interventions when needed. We are deeply committed to helping students navigate the transition back to school this fall. For many, that includes coping with and recovering from the extreme stress and trauma of COVID-19 pandemic. That's why we're researching and developing lessons to be delivered to all students, lessons that are designed to enhance the natural adaptability and recovery of our students as they transition back to school. At this time, Ms. Stephanie Hazing will share with you some additional details on how we'll identify and support students and families who need.
Thank you, Katie. My name is Stephanie Hazing, and I supervise the school social workers. As we have laid the foundation for a safe, secure, and welcoming school environment with a structure of multi-tiered systems of support for behavior and consistent counseling lessons, the next step is to actively identify students and families in need. Assisting our teachers in establishing a process for a brief daily check-in, quickly getting the mental and physical pulse on our students, whether that be in person or remotely. This could be during elementary homeroom, middle school or high school team time, or an advisory class period. We want to build in time for reflection and student voice, knowing that students facing challenges or even trauma beyond COVID-19. We need to focus the time and energy on relationship development and recognize that's critical. We must ensure that students have their needs met before they can be ready to learn. As physical or emotional needs are identified, teachers can involve the school counselor or social worker to further assist for those needs, which could include things like food, housing, clothing, and medical care. As school staff, we cannot do this alone. It will be important to maximize our community partnerships, utilizing connections at the elementary level, Methodist community counseling at the secondary level, and the SAFE program offered by Child Saving Institute and Region 6 to support the mental health needs of our students. Continuing with the food bank to address food insecurity, this partnership has proven to be essential throughout the closure. Working with Mentor Nebraska, continuing to provide an additional caring relationship with a supportive adult, and publicizing Safe to Help, our Safe Schools hotline that provides 24-hour access to train Boys Town crisis counselors to help students, families, and staff with a variety of topics. With safety being our top priority, we will provide and promote professional development around mandatory reporting of child abuse and neglect. We know as educators that we're all mandated reporters. We're used to seeing our students every day and being able to act upon concerns when needed. During the closure, our access to students has been limited, and reports to Child Protective Services hotline were down significantly, sometimes as much as 70%. We want to remind our staff of our see something, say something reporting process, never forgetting that even remotely, we are an important part of their safety net. I will now turn it over to Mr. Barry Thomas for the next portion of the presentation.
Thank you, Stephanie, and good evening to our board president, our board leadership, and our Omaha Public Schools community. I'm Barry Thomas. I'm the Director of Equity and Diversity, and just wanted to give an update. As we continue to support our students during challenging times, we recognize how important it is to provide our students an opportunity to talk through issues together. Beginning in July, we will be launching a program called Expression that will allow students to participate in forums to talk things out and to better understand our world through each other. We also will be providing a Families Learning from Families virtual roundtable event that will focus on supporting emotional wellness and coping with anxiety and fear during the COVID-19 pandemic. Our teaching staff and school or program leaders have been provided resources and training to support equity-oriented education and inclusive school leadership practices. We will continue to add tools and develop skills that support working through this crisis. And now to discuss our efforts in instruction, I'll hand it off to Melissa Comine.
Thank you, Barry, and good evening all. I am Melissa Comine, Chief Academic Officer for Omaha Public Schools. The purpose in planning for the opening of the school year is to maximize learning time for all students. There are 3 instructional models currently being planned for the 2021 school year to support a responsible and safe return to school. The first instructional model is the Family 3-2 Learning Model and is the model students will return to school in person this fall. Students are placed in one of 2 cohort groups, A through K and L through Z, as mentioned earlier in this presentation. In this model, students will spend half of their time in school learning and the other half of time in at-home learning. When students are in school, they will receive in-depth instruction from their teacher on prioritized grade level content. This will then allow students to practice prioritized skills and concepts they learned during in-person instruction when they are in at-home learning. At-home learning will incorporate a variety of planned learning experiences through the use of our district curriculum, which is a combination of printed and online materials. An example of the Family 3-2 model at the elementary level is, for in-school instruction at the elementary level, traditional time allotments have been adjusted to allow students to receive 2 lessons in English language arts and math every day. This will ensure we stay on pace with instruction and students receive necessary grade level content in these critical areas. There is also time built in for science, social studies, intervention, and special area instruction. When students are at home, they will have a daily schedule with time allotments to follow for all content areas. This allows students to practice and apply the skills they've learned through the use of traditional learning materials, textbooks, utilize ed tech, and compose writing through the use of the iPad. Students will also engage in individualized instruction through digital learning on the iPad. A few examples include iRead and Amira as part of our new K-5 ELA adoption, and instructional math videos created for kindergarten through 5th grade. The second model is a remote learning model, where all students participated learning and instruction at home. Students will receive a schedule that matches the Family 3-2 learning model and pacing. This schedule will provide for consistency and take into consideration best practices for screen time and remote learning. The remote learning option is a separate program for students who may require 100% remote learning and will be available this fall. Families will also have the option to apply to the Omaha Virtual School Program, which is a separate program from the remote learning option. The last model is the on-site learning model. It is where all students attend school daily for in-person instruction. This model most closely resembles school operations prior to the pandemic. Schools would follow their regular school schedule. All three instructional models support student learning and include special education and English learner services. The models also incorporate technology for EdTech learning through the use of the iPad. Teachers are currently working with district staff to revise all curriculum guides for all instructional models. Not only do we have high expectations for our students, we also have high expectations for ourselves and staff. We know that once our students and families have what they need, research and experience show that strong relationships with caring adults and educators are key to keeping students engaged. For our students, we expect them to attend school daily when healthy, participate in class, complete learning activities, stay connected with their peers and teachers, and reach out when they need help. Finally, district grading practices will be utilized in all instructional models during the 2021 school year. Thank you, and it is my pleasure to introduce Mr. Brian Dunn, Director of Information Management Services.
Mr. Dunn? Mr. Ray, do you know if he's on the call? I think he's,
Can you hear me?
we can hear you now.
Okay, pardon me.
Welcome.
Well, thank you again, Mrs. Comine. Again, my name is Mr. Brian Dunn. I am the Director of Information Management Services, and I am here this evening to present on our one-to-one technology initiative and give you updates on our iPad deployment. I am happy to report that the first wave of 10,486 iPads are currently being provisioned and ready for shipment to OPS. We will receive the iPads, all 54,400 of them, in 5 waves, July through September. And in addition to the remote professional development that was offered to our teachers in May, we are working with the Apple Corporation to provide specific training to all curriculum departments and teachers and staff when they return in August. This training will ensure that all the staff have the skills and knowledge necessary to provide the blended instruction in the fall, but will also still deliver remote instruction to students if circumstances require. Now at this time, I'll turn it back over to Dr. Logan for next steps.
Thank you, Brian. The next steps in this process, and thank you entire team for presenting tonight. Really nice job, everyone. The next step is collaboration with our staff and families. In early July, I believe it's around the 7th, staff will receive an email from our Chief of Human Resources, Mr. Wakefield. Staff will receive guidance for next steps if medical reasons prevent their return to work. Human Resources will identify options that may be available. There are some options that are available as a result of the CARES Act, and Human Resources has already let all of our staff know and will include that information in that communication. Families who would like to request for remote learning can send an email to remote.learning@ops.org. A communication will go out to all families as well regarding that. Applications are currently being accepted. The placement of students in remote learning will be subject to need and availability. Remote learning schedules will align with the current pacing for traditional sites, A to K, L through Z, Family 3-2 model. All remote learning placements will remain in effect for 1 semester. And at the conclusion of remote learning, students are guaranteed placement back into their former school or home attendant school per the student assignment plan. We want to make sure that families understand that, if you can go back, sorry, if families understand that this remote learning option is not the virtual school. The virtual school is another option that families can. It is a homeschooling option, but the Omaha Virtual School, ovs.ops.org, I believe, ops@ops.org is another option for families who are interested in a homeschool option. The goal here is to make sure that we keep students connected with their home school, even if they decide, even if their parents decide that they want them to go to a completely remote learning environment. The only thing that we ask is that if you enroll in remote learning, that you remain there for the semester, because we will have to do some things in terms of staff to make sure that the remote learning is staffed appropriately. The last thing that I want to mention before we get to the final slide, or you can go to the last slide, is that this team has worked really, really hard to make sure that we presented a safe and responsible plan. None of us want to be in this position right now. We all want to have our students back 100% of the time. We also know that we've had crowded classrooms in the Omaha Public Schools for many, many years, especially in the southern part of our district, and that to reopen schools in those crowded conditions would put too many people at risk, and that this at this time is the best option for us. Should conditions improve, we will be the first person championing getting all of our students back in schools 5 days a week. As I shared earlier, we do know that some of our neediest students need to be in school 5 days a week. I think everybody needs to be in school 5 days a week. I think we all agree on that, but particularly, and so we have made the provisions for those students to make sure that they are, but there are many others. And so our goal is to implement a really fine model that I'm very proud of, that our team created. It's not where we want to be, but we are in a pandemic, and so we're going to make the best decisions we can with the information that we have, and to update our information as we receive more. Couple of things I want to talk about with our masks, because someone made a comment this evening that was incorrect. Masks are required. As a matter of fact, the Omaha Public Schools was the first district in the metro area to require masks for staff back in April. And we will continue to require masks for our students and staff. But we also have to be reasonable. We have to think about children who, and some number of adults for whom this puts them at risk. We also know that our community is a loving community, and that we all want to take care of each other. And so our stance is not about suspending children who don't want to wear a mask. Our job is always to teach and to make this a teachable moment. We know that our students care deeply for their teachers, and we have many teachers who cannot return unless we take these mitigation efforts to protect them with hand washing and with hand sanitizing and with social distancing and with putting on a face covering to ensure that we can mitigate risk for these fabulous staff members who, many of them, many have reached out. They reached out after they received the plan and, said that this was a way that they could come back. And that really, I know it did my heart and all of our hearts happy to hear that some of these mitigation efforts are going to make folks feel comfortable. Are there still a lot of unknowns? Absolutely. Is this a school-based effort? It always is. Schools always carry the day. And so we're going to provide clear guidelines for our school leaders and let them use their time and talents, along with that of their staff, to implement the guidelines specific for their schools. It's real important that we work together. We are all on the same team. I'd like to thank our governor, Governor Ricketts, who has now started to stress the use of face coverings. We really appreciate that, and all of our leadership around the state who is showing the importance of wearing the face coverings. To my face covering protects you, and your face covering protects me. And that's the way that we're going to address this. Again, we are in this together. We can only get through it together. I'm hoping that soon we'll be on the other side of this, as we all are. And in the meantime, we're going to take care of each other. We're going to implement the recommendations of the medical professionals. We're going to get our children back in schools, in their seats, hopefully, and seeing their friends and seeing their teachers and all other staff who can't wait to welcome them back on August the 11th. We'll work with school leaders to ensure every student has equitable access to a teacher to provide high quality instruction, regardless of instructional method. They will collaborate with staff identified as high risk for COVID-19 or who live with or care for individuals to determine their best role and to navigate options. Collaborate with leaders across our district to ensure student and staff health. Safety is our top priority. Right prior to this meeting, I met with the school leaders. All of our school leaders were able to sign on. Some were out of town, but the majority were on there to make sure that we keep those lines of communication, because we know always that teachers and school-based staff will do the heavy lifting, and student community service will give an update on attendance expectations on our July 13th board meeting. This concludes our presentation for this evening. Thank you, President Snow, Vice President Dr. Holman, and members of the Board of Education.